Standard bearers are bold, they're visible, and they're out front. That's how standard bearers redefine their industries. So today on Equal Matters, a new series called The Standard Bearers. How you doing? It's your boy, the ROB, Rob Hunter, joined today by my main man, Dave Riccio, the owner of Tri-City Transmission and Auto Repair in Tempe, Arizona. Dave is the standard bearer in the auto repair industry. Dave, first question I have for you. Thanks for doing this with me. This is awesome. You've been one of my favorite people for what, a dozen years or so?
Yeah, at least.
You put on your website and you say this to people that you have heart-centered values and heart-centered service. Not something I've ever heard before in the auto repair industry. So tell me about what heart-centered is for you.
Heart-centered is breaking the rules. You know, we got our culture conditioning tells us how we should be, how we should act, how we should do business.
Yeah.
For me, I grew up that way. I always tried to live that, but at the end of the day, I wasn't happy because I'm putting on a facade, right? I'm not really showing who I am. I'm playing a part. I'm wearing a costume, and I'm looking the part I think I should look. When in fact, it's not really me and showing my heart and living with an open heart. Not that I didn't live with an open heart, but I decided, you know what, this is my business. I can run it the way I want. And if I want to wear my heart on my sleeve, I'm more than welcome to. And so that is what heart-centered is. And I hate the fact that in business, it's transactional.
Mm-hmm.
And really, it's a person with story to their life, and it's meaningful to them. And I've got a story to my life, and connection is what makes life sweet, what makes life rich, gives it color, gives it texture. Yeah. But in the meantime, if it's just transactional, you know, and heart-centered is breaking the rules. I like to break rules. So there's rules like you can't be friends with your employees because someday you may have to put the screws to them, or vice versa, they may have to put the screws to you. So you just don't get to know your employee, and so you guys have this transactional relationship.
Yeah.
You show up, you do the job, I give you a paycheck. And there's nothing beyond that, but I don't like that. You know, I want to be friends with my employees. So we just have different roles. Doesn't mean we can't be friends. So I want to get to know them. And if you have communication, you can do that.
Yeah.
You can work and operate in that space. And some people are not capable. Not all employees are capable of that experience. And you find out who those are, but you live with an open heart until somebody shows you differently, you know. And you take a hit every now and then by having an open heart. Yeah, something might hurt, but you know what? You just regenerate.
Yeah.
You just drop it and go to the next, you know.
Yeah, and I just love that too, because I always thought the same way about employees. So I worked on radio teams when I was the lead, the host, or when I was the producer, on air, off air, and I still had to lead in a different way. And through that, I learned how to manage my non-on air employees. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So I had one employee, a younger female, who wanted to be full-time. Like, that was her goal. She wanted to work in the radio industry and be full-time. I'm like, well, I don't have any full-time positions. However, I can introduce you to people in this building that may lead to something.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that by getting to know her and asking her what her goals were. She did a podcast for a college project, and I listened to it. And I gave her some feedback on it, because that's part of being a good friend is being honest with your friends.
Right.
And when you have to put the screws to them, you can do it in a friendship, heart-centered way.
Yes.
Another guy, a guitarist in a local band here, is phenomenal. His name's Cal the Guitar Hero.
Right.
And I want to support him, so I go to his shows. He did a karaoke night with his band, like a live karaoke night. And I'm like, I don't manage him anymore, but I'm still coming to support him. So imagine I turned myself off from that and missed out on those experiences because of that so-called societal rule that I have to shut my heart off and not be my full self.
Right. So it's limiting.
Yes.
I mean, it does cut down on I come to work and all my employees are my friends. So it's not like I'm going to work.
Right.
I'm going to hang out with my friends.
Didn't even think of that.
For 8 hours. I'd rather go hang out with my friends. It's actually 10 hours because my boss is me and he's a slave driver. But, I'm going to work with my friends. And so I'd rather do that than go to work where I got to play cards and I got to hold my cards close to my chest. You know, I don't think you have to manipulate people to get them to do the job.
Agree.
And I feel like in some places, and I network with other shop owners, and some of the pay programs and the gimmicks that they come up with to get the best results out of their employees, and it's It's like, I don't want to go through all that. That's drama, unnecessary, and it's cold.
It is.
And I don't want to live that way. So, yeah. And because my business is successful, and it was like, I've got a little bit of, I can do this. If I want to be heart centered, I can be heart centered. And even with the consumers, you can't get to know the customer too well because you got to charge them and take their money. And it's the same on that end, or even on the vendor, So I've got employees, I've got customers, and I got vendors. That is my realm of influence. And I feel like when it comes to your realm of influence, because you can't change a lot of things in the world, but you can change your corner of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a thing. It's kind of like that's the way you spread light, open heart, you spread love, and it can be contagious because people get a little taste of that and they're not like, I don't know. I was working at the dealership and I felt like a number down there. No one knew who I was. I punched a clock. I did my thing. But I had no connection there. I didn't live in connection. So the employees are gaming against the business, and the business are gaming against the employees, and who wants that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I think it's interesting, too, because our journeys are similar in a lot of ways, albeit through different professions. And I even want to go back in time to August 27th, 8th, 9th, 2005.
Okay.
At that time, I was in New Orleans. That was the very weekend that Hurricane Katrina hit. So I'm broadcasting live, knowing that in the middle of this storm, my life is about to fundamentally change. I didn't know in the middle of the storm what was going to happen, but Monday morning, August 29th, our radio tower was destroyed and washed out to sea when Katrina came on shore. So that became, okay, next day we leave New Orleans, we get to Houston. At first, they tell me, oh, don't worry, Rob, you have a job. But then they were able to survey the damage a couple of days later and say it's going to be months before we can even get the thing rebuilt. So we're going to let you go. So I'm off on this journey on myself and trying to figure out what my next step is. You had a very different experience that very same weekend, that very same year, that opened your heart up and allowed you to step more fully into you. What happened?
Wow. It caught me off guard a little bit. So, I had woke up on that Friday. I think it was a Friday. I woke up and tried to go to work. And when I got in the car to put my keys in the ignition, I couldn't do it. And what had happened is the whole right side of my body wasn't working. So I sat around the house all day Friday, called into work, said I'm not going to make it, had someone cover my appointments. And at the time, I was selling industrial HVAC equipment. Super sexy.
Hey, in this desert, we need all the help we can get.
We sure do. So, I sit around Friday, I'm biting my tongue, and like just things aren't working right, but I can't tell what's wrong with me. I've got a splitting headache, and I'm thinking, maybe it's just a migraine. Migraines do weird things.
Yeah.
Vision's off. My eyeball hurt. So I sat around Friday, and then Saturday all day, same stuff. I woke up Sunday morning, and I'm like, something's not working. I go to the doctor. So I go to the emergency room, and my son at the time was probably 4 or 5 months old. Actually, I don't remember it exactly. But so my wife at the time, she drops me off at the hospital. She's dealing with our son, and so I go in there, and the doctor's checking me out. And he says, "Can you put your finger to your nose?" And I'm like, "Sure."
Wow.
And
it's hitting the side of your head.
Side of my head.
Yeah.
And he's probably supposed to have a poker face, but he flinched a little. So he's like, okay. He's like, he sent me in for a CT scan and came back. He goes, yeah, there's something not quite right. So we got a neurologist on the way. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what is going on? I'm thinking, am I like Michael J. Fox? Am I like the doctor from ER that had the brain tumor? Like, what's happening? All these things are, going through my mind. But at the same time, my mind's not working well because I'm having this event in my brain. And neurologist comes down and he says, you've either had a stroke, you got a brain tumor, or you got MS.
Wow.
He goes, let's hope for MS.
Let's hope for MS, he said.
Yeah. And I didn't know what MS was.
Yeah.
But
because you're at the time, you're same age as me, so you're 27.
27 years old.
Yeah.
So that was that was like, wow. So then I called my wife at the time. I said, hey, it looks like there's something wrong with my brain. Neurologist is down here. Well, she rushes right down. And I spent that week in the hospital. And in the hospital, I watched Hurricane Katrina on the news every day. And I was laying in bed, and the only thing that gave me comfort was that I was like, well, at least I'm not there. I'm not, my house is not being washed away. And so I guess for whatever reason, that gave me some sort of hope, But it was a really tough time, and that was a life-changing moment for me, was that you see yourself in a certain way and how you are, and all of a sudden, it fully changed.
Yeah.
Now I don't even know who I am.
Yeah. Like my journey, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I knew who I was behind the microphone in New Orleans. I knew who I was broadcasting during Katrina. It was my responsibility as a public broadcaster. But when it was around 8:15 Monday morning, when the tower got destroyed, it was that. Who am I now?
Who am I
Especially when they said, you're not coming back. I'm like, well, really, who am I?
Right.
And then you have to go through this journey. And this is another thing that I know you're a standard bearer, because standard bearers face the storm. They don't hide from it. They don't run from it, because this moment for you was transformational in so many different ways, because you started that journey on who actually is Dave Riccio.
Right.
So walk me through some of that transition into, okay, I just received this news that fundamentally changes my life, but it didn't just change your life in a diagnosis, it changed your journey.
Totally changed my journey. So, I'm thinking, okay, what does this mean? Am I getting a wheelchair? And I didn't know what MS was, so you immediately get online and start researching. And, I looked at the MS Society. Well, the MS Society's raising money, so they're going to show you the worst case.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to show you. So
just like the news, right?
Just like the news,
Yeah.
right?
I think of the Katrina and the looting and the perception of that, which really was a disguise tactic by the Bush administration, the governor of Louisiana, and the mayor of New Orleans, who all failed in their duties. So they wanted to distract you from the failures by pointing out all the looting and the rioting, right? Same idea.
Right. Yeah. So I spent, literally, and I spent 3 months crying. Just
don't blame you. I would have done it for a year and 3 months, most likely.
And I'm thinking to myself, all right, I got this young son at home.
Yeah.
How am I going to provide for him? I've got this wife at home. How am I going to provide for her? And so I think as a man, a big part of your identity is provision. Hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to,
it's built in for us.
Hunt and gather for the family. I'm going to put food on the table. And that was compromised. And that was a crushing blow. So what do I do with that? So I laid in bed. I went back to work. It took me 3 months to actually get back to work. I was having trouble seeing out of one eye. My eyeball hurt. I still wasn't functioning well, wasn't walking well. It was a significant event. It changed a lot. And so I finally started working more and more. And I'm like, man, I can't do this. This isn't going to work. I couldn't read a spreadsheet anymore. And I worked in a spreadsheet all day long. And I thought to myself, who's going to pay me to be sick? And the employer that I work for, and I really credit that guy, because that guy taught me a lot about heart-centered business.
Nice.
Because he had a huge heart. At the same time, he also had his boundaries, because he had 100 employees. And so I realized no one was going to pay me to be sick. So what was I going to do? I was going to have to go get my own business. And so that was the beginning of going ahead. And the other thing was, I had played things safe for so long in my life, always like calculating every detail, controlling every detail, put this in place, that in place, the other in place. And I still got sick. So all the trying to keep myself safe. And here I am with a degenerative disease. And so, that's when I started to take a look at, buying my own business. So something interesting about this is I never thought I would go to Louisiana. And, they didn't have a lot of footage. So when I was in that hospital, they just kept showing a picture of the Superdome.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And 10 years to the date, I was standing in front of the Superdome on the anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. And I'm looking around and everything's organized and clean and there's nothing going on. And I'm thinking to myself, and I remember just crying because here I am 10 years later and everything was so torn up and it was a disaster there. And 10 years later, it's like nothing happened. So it was it was just evidence of, on the 10-year anniversary, I'm standing there and I never thought I'd be in New Orleans.
Right.
So It's kind of an
Weird
interesting story.
how things transpire and where the journey goes. And it is interesting too. And number one, thank you for your honesty with this, because it's part of your story, not the whole story. And I think what is so incredibly admirable, and one of the things I love the most about you, is how you didn't stop living. You started living.
Yeah.
You started really becoming the Dave Riccio that I know and that I love. And that's one of my best friends, right? So you decided, I'm buying in a transmission shop. Okay. Of all the things, going from HVAC repair, why a transmission and auto repair business?
Well, when I was 16, I was working in a tire shop, changing tires and changing oil, and that's another story. But so I was, found because of this Jeep I bought. I found out I liked working on cars, so that's how I got into that. And then by the age 21, I was managing my own shop for Purcell Tire here in town, and it was a very successful shop. And I was good at it, even though I didn't know what I was doing. It was still working out.
But some part of it came natural to you.
Came natural to me. So I'm like, well, no one's going to pay me to be sick, so I need to buy a business so that I don't have to be there every day, so I can still earn an income. What do I know? What do I know? I'm scratching my head. I'm like, hey, tire shop. So I set out to buy a tire shop. I don't know how I ended up with the transmission shop. I mean, actually, I do, because my story is filled with being guided. That's the way I would put it, being guided. And one of the customers that I had selling industrial HVAC equipment was Tri-City Transmission. And I had somewhat gotten to know the guys. They were looking to buy some equipment for their new building that they were putting together. And one day I was driving down McClintock, and a little voice pops in my head, says, pull in there and see if those guys will sell you the place.
Interesting.
I mean, I had zero. I would have never considered that. But, sometimes when I feel a little nudge from the universe, I'm like, I'll check it out, right?
Let's do it.
So I remember I pulled in the parking lot, and I got out of the car, and I was like, and I couldn't stand steady, right? I'm like, how are they going to sell me the business if I can barely walk? And so I steadied myself on the car. And at the time, my right leg would drag. And so I, really hid that, and I learned to hide that. And I walked in there and sat down, and there was two partners that owned it. And I plopped down on the chair, and they knew me from selling the equipment. I said, I was thinking about getting back into auto repair. And you guys look about the age to retire.
That's heart-centered honesty, right?
That was my line. And so the one guy was real talkative, Leon. The other guy had a newspaper. And all of a sudden, the newspaper folded down, and he goes, thanks a lot.
But he got what you were doing, right?
He got what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we should go to lunch sometime. So we literally went to lunch, and we, that was several lunches, and they were full of story. They told me their story, and their story was very much guided too. And so I listened to their story, and when I bought the place, Leon told me, he said, when you walk in for the first time, my wife said that was you when you were that age.
Oh, interesting.
He is you when you were that age. And ironically enough, his house that he was in when he bought the shop or started the shop was a couple houses down from mine at that time.
Interesting.
Yeah, so the pieces, you start to connect the dots, like how's small world kind of stuff. But that's how it happened. But I didn't want a transmission shop. And as a matter of fact, I quit my other job, and my old boss was great. I quit it, and I said, hey, listen, I'm going to be buying a business. Maybe you can just pay me per day. So he used to pay me per day to come in and do what I did. And that worked out great because it gave me a nice little off-ramp to go do this business thing. But that is pretty much how it went down.
So this is 20 years ago. You've had this place that we're sitting in right now for 20 years, which, by the way, great hidden podcast studio in an auto shop. Awesome. So the 20 years, what has that been like to own it, shape it, mold it, and really go back to that heart center and try to redefine the auto industry, the auto repair industry? Because I looked up a survey AAA did a survey and they said 2/3 of us do not trust auto repair.
Oh, yeah.
So you're facing an industry when you buy it that doesn't have a great reputation. You're dealing with transmissions. And what do you say about transmissions? They're
the most complicated, most misunderstood, most commonly misdiagnosed part of the car.
Yeah. And through your experience, you've learned that many auto repair shops just want to sell the whole transmission when they don't really need to, because only one part of it needs to be replaced or fixed.
Right.
So instead of it being $12,000, it might be $2,000 or $2,500. And you're the guy out here being bold enough to say, let's look at the whole car. Let's test it.
Right.
Let's take some extra time with it. So in the 20 years, have you seen a shift in the perception of the auto repair industry by the work that you're doing here?
I don't know if I've seen a shift for sure, but it certainly makes me more desirable as a business.
Yeah.
Because people they're not wanting the quick answer, yeah, just give me $5,000 and you get a transmission kind of thing. But I will go back to say that, I knew the tire business really well. I didn't know anything about transmissions.
But again, you had that message.
I had the message.
Okay,
so here I am. Here I am. And I still haven't come to an acceptance of my diagnosis. I mean, it's that fresh.
Of course.
And I'm starting to get back at it. And now I'm in this transmission business, which I know nothing about. And I bought the business, and as businesses do, when you buy a business, a lot of the employees, it's a new regime, they're leaving.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, new regime, everyone's gone. I don't have any knowledge. So I had to quickly gain some knowledge. And
like a little challenge for yourself,
right?
Learn the most complicated, misunderstood, and misdiagnosed part of the car.
Yeah. So I got thrown into the fire quickly, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I do? So it really, really challenged me. And sometimes it's hard things that we got to go through. But I got an SBA loan, so my house was hawked, I guess. So I had to make this thing work, and I was stuck. I mean, I literally put myself in a position where this is what I got to do. I mean, I would have loved to go back and sell HVAC equipment.
Yeah, right. Of course.
But I never really had that. I mean, I was just always full of, oh yeah, I'm going to get it. I'm going to figure it out. Nothing really. When you're young, you got a lot of energy, but you don't know much.
But that's how you learn, because you have energy to learn.
Right, to learn. And I say when you're old, you know a lot of stuff, but you got no energy. So it was a learning curve, and one way or another, things just worked out, and we just got through it. But I thought that I was good with people, and I thought that I was good with customers, and I did have personality, and I did have skills that way. But I had so much to learn. I didn't know how to lead people, and that was a thing. And not only that, because the crew walked out, and I had to take anyone with a heartbeat to build transmissions or to diagnose transmissions or take them in and out of the car, I didn't have the best. So I had to fill in the gap. So it was very stressful in the early days. But it actually took me to a breaking point many times over, many dark nights of the soul. Like, what am I doing? I remember like getting down and like praying, like, God, if you're there, I need help. Those kind of moments to get through that. But so as time went on, I started to learn the way the industry ran and why people hated the transmission industry so much, because there were so many games and so many gimmicks and so much bait and switch that went on. I was like, I'm not doing any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because it didn't feel right. It didn't feel good. And it didn't make me proud of my job. If I bumped into somebody a week later at the grocery store, I wanted them to have a smile when they saw me. And I'd be like, oh, that's the guy that burned me on my car. That wouldn't feel good.
Well, and there's such a knowledge gap that is so easily exploitable. And this isn't just in the auto repair industry. A friend of mine just had some health challenges, and she's our age too. And she explained how the doctors were communicating with her using all these medical book terms that a normal person doesn't understand, and they don't know how to translate that. So it creates this chasm in this mistrust that, do you really know what you're doing? Because do you know how to talk to me about my car, about my body, about whatever, in non-industry terms, to close this gap so that we can be people together in this, to let me know, okay, look, there are some challenges with your car, there are some challenges with your health, but we're in this together and we're going to figure out the best way. Because I love you have a phrase. I want to give you good facts so you can make good decisions. And part of that comes in how you communicate in that. And let's go back to the rule breaking. Because I'm a big rule breaker too. I think groupthink is dangerous.
Something to be said about breaking rules.
Exactly.
And, shake it up a little bit. Do something different.
Yeah, and I think that, so I created an image recently about standard bearers, and this is from my corporate experience where, I've been told many times, oh, this is the way it's done. You shouldn't wear hip-hop T-shirts because no business is going to sponsor you if you have a old dirty bastard shirt. I'm like, but this shirt is fire. You got to admit, it's got gold teeth. It is a great shirt.
Right.
So you try to fit in. So on the side of the image, that's the corporate side, it's just everybody's in a suit, not smiling, not happy. And then on the standard bearer side, it's a party. We're delighted. We're having a good time.
You're going to work with your friends.
Because you want to work with your friends. Exactly right. But I think that the rule breaking is so needed to get out of the groupthink, because how many times in human history that we can think of where groupthink led us to dark times?
Oh, yeah.
Or allowed dark things to happen for years and years and centuries and centuries before someone was like, maybe we could do it a different way.
Yeah.
A better way that actually helps people be more prosperous or helps people be more loving, or we're kinder to each other and we work together collaboratively, even when we don't agree all the time.
Right.
So that groupthink, that rule breaking, tying that into the heart-centeredness, I want to come back to that because that's fascinating in getting in your heart space to be able to break the rules, because it's so easy to just fit in and just do it the way everybody else does. But through your journey and your 20 years of owning the shop, you've learned, no. The opposite is actually better.
The early advice that I got because I needed to learn everything I could about this transmission business. So I got involved with our transmission ATRA, which is our organization that kind of is a big piece of it. And I would go to seminars and I would tell people what I was doing. I was like, so like you take that transmission apart, you just replace the one broken part and put it all back together? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you can't do that, man. I'm like, well, why not? It saves the consumer a bunch of money. They like it, and if there's ever a problem, we have a good discussion and they can understand it. We had a conversation. And so that was definitely a rule break. I mean, still people are like, nah, that's a bad idea. Why are you doing that? Right?
Yeah.
And I still do it. And it's still working.
Yeah.
And it hasn't backfired like everybody taught me, but people kind of lie to themselves. They become okay with
That's the way things are done.
The way things are done. But I wasn't from the transmission industry, so it didn't make any sense to me to do it the way they were doing it.
I love that.
I mean, you take it all apart, and you're literally telling me that one little gizmo is all you need, and you're going to sell them the whole thing?
Yeah, you guys just put out a video. Shout out to Solomon, your son, for putting the video out, where one of your techs, John, your main tech, he's like, oh, no, the only problem with this transmission is this one screw.
Right.
It could have been super easy, just be like, nope, you got to replace the whole thing. But you are willing to take the whole thing apart, find the one screw that needs to be replaced, and be like, there we go.
Right.
We'll get you out the door for a lot less than the full transmission.
And now my friends have even expanded because that customer's left somewhere else where they said, bunch of money, right? And I just fixed the screw. Well, he appreciates that. And we get to know each other. And if he has a problem down the road, he's going to come back and see me. And his daughter's going to come see me down the road. I mean, it's just, I get to know people. And so I have community, and community is a big deal.
Yes.
I mean, we're very much a packed animal. So, like a pack of wolves. I mean, we're meant to be in connection with each other, and we all have different roles in the community. And community is underrated. Our world is so much about judgment. So, and the thing about judgment is judgment separates people. And so as soon as I'm the shop, you're the consumer, and there's like a wall between us, and we're both playing cards and like, are you trying to get in my pocket? Or what's happening here, right? So the judgment goes on, and that separates people. But if you can break that barrier by being genuine and authentic, and I'm not talking fake authentic. Like if you go to my website, there's no stock photos. They're real people. It's the real deal. And I think, and you've mentioned this a lot, and I really get it. There's a trust gap.
Big time.
Hugely, because we've had the wool pulled over our own eyes by trusted experts, in the world, and so now we're going, okay, what can I believe? So people are hungry for that, and being truly authentic. I don't know. I mean, I guess when people are sociopathic, maybe they can fake that. I've seen that. Some people that are really good at that. You know, that you're like, oh, thanks so much, man. And in the same time, they get their hand and you're taking your wallet out.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know, so they don't really have your best interest at heart. But one of the things I tell my son is, and I told him when he was younger, I'd say, you know, everybody's an irrepeatable miracle of the universe. Or I tell him, you're an irrepeatable miracle of the universe, but so is everybody else.
Yeah.
So it's not like all me and they don't have any value. It's like they have just as much value as I have. We just got to figure it out, you know? And I had a customer come in one time and we were having conflict and he was pretty upset and he had made some false assumptions, about me. So basically, if you put a filter over your eyes and you think everybody's out to get you, guess what you're going to get? Everybody out to get you, whether they are or they aren't, you've already just made that determination in your mind. So 2/3 don't trust the auto repair industry. This guy's thinking I'm out to get him.
Of course. He comes up with his walls up. He's defensive.
And he walks in and he's going to film me with his cell phone while he talks to me.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I'm like, all right, you can film me if you want. Let's grab a seat. So I sat down on the chair. He sat down next to me and he's filming me. You can film me if you want, but here's the deal. I said, you and I have what we call conflict. And they didn't teach us in school how to work through conflict. And we have to figure it out. So I tell you what, you're human. You're my brother. I'm your brother. We just got to figure it out. So let's figure it out. So for whatever reason, it struck a chord in him and he started getting choked up. So he said, excuse me for a minute. He walked outside, turned his phone off, came back in. We went into my office and I told him what I was going to do. And I got generous for sure. I got generous and it was unapologetic generosity. And
it wasn't meant to be reciprocal.
No, no, I didn't need anything from it. Yeah. And I tell you what, this guy broke down crying, and he was an EMT. And so if you picture your life as an EMT, every situation you show up to, just about every time is a bad situation.
Yeah.
Someone died in a car wreck, someone just had a heart attack. You get jaded, but you don't realize you're dealing with that day in and day out and kind of what it does to you. And so next thing I know, this guy's crying and we're hugging. He's crying on my shoulder and slobbering and whatever. And
he went all out. But he needed to let it out. He needed some safe space to do that.
Yeah. So he left. We fixed his car up and he was grateful. But for me, it was one of the best days of work. Not because I made any money. I didn't make any money. I lost money. You know?
But did the right thing.
But I did the right thing. And it wasn't even, not necessarily that I was doing the wrong thing before. I wasn't. Yeah. But I did what was right in my heart. Right? I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to become generous with this guy. I didn't have to set aside. And sometimes when we hold space for people, it's us setting aside our needs. Will they go through their process? And we take ourselves out of the equation other than I'm just going to, as a brother in my community, I'm just going to let you have your space and I'm going to support you however you need, right? And we take all that away and that's totally different.
It is.
You know, but that's one of many situations that I've had in my place over all the years.
Yeah, and even going back to, right, your journey and how that evolves through finding who you really are. And there's a patience in that. And that's one of the challenges I've had in life. Always been a rush, go, do this. I got to grind. I got to hustle. I don't have time for this because I got to get ready for my next show. But the other night, another perfect example of what you're saying. I ordered pizza, and the pizza man comes over and delivers it. And he's probably about 60. And he just starts talking. And he's telling me his story. And he's telling me how he's recently divorced and he's trying to figure out his next steps and the challenges he's having with the divorce and how much money that has taken out of his bank account. And I just listened. And I just sat because he needed somebody to talk to.
Right.
Or he wanted to talk about this. So I'm like, I'll just hold my pizza.
Right.
It's smelling so good and I want to take a bite, but I'm going to hang out with you because you presented that and I'm just going to be here with you. And I thought that was kind of cool and closed the door after 10, 15 minutes, whatever. And he went on his way and hopefully he was smiling on his way back to the car. And I was smiling that he felt that he could share that with me. Whereas 5, 7 years ago, I'm like, dude, I got to get ready for my show. I don't have time to listen to you. I can't believe you're telling me all this nonsense. But I'm like, cool with being calm and chill and working through the situation.
That's one of the things I noticed, and I love one-on-ones with people. So I like to go to lunch with my employees. or my friends.
Mm.
Change the term.
Yeah.
I like to go to lunch with my friends. Who doesn't want to go to lunch with my friends or with their friends? And so I do that pretty much on the regular basis because I want to get to know you other than outside the, hey, we got to get this car done. We got this deadline. We got this customer on the phone. We got to get these parts, all the things that go on during the day. But just to take an hour to shut all that off and just be with each other. And you find out he's got stories and he's got his life and you get to share in that exchange. It's what makes life rich.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
Otherwise, it's just a transactional deal. So one-on-ones, and I do one-on-ones with other guys in the industry. They own shops or whatever. And so we'll go out to lunch and we'll hang out. And I usually get a text a couple hours later. Wow, thanks for taking me to lunch. That was really amazing. Every time I go to lunch with you, I feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And we all just need a good listening to. We just want to be seen.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing. How can we be seen? And when we're seen and validated, it just makes life easier. Feels better.
Well, it feels like you're in that community of togetherness.
Mm.
And, you know, if we want to get real existential and utopian, we can say, okay, we're all part of a community that lives on the same planet.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to your point about it's so easy to divide, it's so easy to judge. It comes so naturally to us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I judge people, I'll admit it, especially when I'm driving. Like the judgment just floods in. But what I try to do now is, let's say that you're in front of me and you're in the left lane and I want to go 80 and you're going 68.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, the left lane's for fast drivers. So I'm going to start judging you. But what I do when I go to pass, I will look over and I will remind myself that that is a human.
Mm.
Not the judgment that's in my head, because I literally know nothing about this person.
Right.
So for me to arrive at this conclusion and say all these names in my head, I'm like, oh, it's a sweet old lady.
Right.
Who's probably going to see her grandkids. Like, relax, dude.
Right.
Get back into that patient spot. And then if I'm doing it right, I can smile at that person and get out of that judgment and move on with my day. But it's taking that extra step and that extra effort to move past those initial thoughts and feelings that come in. And not only that, how you define those feelings. So I think that's a big part of what we do as humans too. So let's say anger. You have a definition of anger based on something that's happened to you,
right,
a way you've responded to a situation. So you react based on what you know.
Mm-hmm.
But if you say, okay, what if that's all fine? But what if I move past that just a little bit and I seek what's beneath this?
Mm-hmm.
What else can I learn about myself? Because the more I've done that, the less judgmental I am, the more connected I am. Because, you know, you've heard the philosophies, I've heard the philosophies. The only thing is now.
Right.
Not tomorrow, not yesterday. The only thing that's real is right now.
Well, and what you're speaking to is emotional literacy, right?
Oh, good term.
So I've got, you know, and the thing is, and I lived this, is to be completely unconscious.
Of course.
You know, there's a big part of our society that just strive, or we're driven. You're talking about it. Hey, when's the next show? What am I doing? I got to study the notes. I got to prep for it.
Mm-hmm.
I got go. And we never really, you know, we don't even consider that we have emotions going on the whole time.
Yeah.
And when you're in the moment, and something I learned through the process of my life being broken, or what I thought was broken at 27, it was actually, you know, there was a time in my life I'm like, getting MS is one of the better things that happened to me.
Yeah.
Right? Because it changed me. It made me who I am. It gave me a totally different frame of reference. And so when you get emotionally literate and you become conscious of your thoughts, in a moment, you can understand, all right, this is going on. How do I want to respond? And this comes to sovereignty, right? So much of us are driven by our subconscious or by our emotions, and we don't know it because we're not emotionally literate. So we're reacting, we're flying off the handle, we're becoming angry because something else happened, or we have some insecurity that we're not aware of. And so now, when I'm in a moment and when I'm having a conversation, I have slowed down enough in what success, and success to me is different than the world would define success. But success to me is a regulated nervous system. I can manage my nervous system. I can do what I want despite this person that's trying to manipulate me. Because, you know, I'm trying to have friendships with my employees. Well, sometimes they may try and manipulate me because they know I'm a softie. Well, I've been around long enough. I know it. I can see it. I spot it. It doesn't work, but I in that moment, I can process what's happening. But that's come through a lot of work.
Of course.
A lot of work, a lot of going inward and taking a look at myself so that I can operate in that space. And that's a leadership space, right? Because not everybody can go there. But it's something I've learned over 20 years of just getting speed bagged by the world.
Oh yeah, and that's the best teacher, right? Life, its experiences, other people are great teachers. But then there you have those rewarding moments like you had with the customer that came in that was in conflict but ended letting a lot of that out. So I'm going to go back to one of my employees, the female employee. So I was her supervisor, but I was not really her boss. So I had a boss who was technically her boss. But there was a situation that happened with a security guard and her. And she came to me. And I thought that was incredibly rewarding that she trusted me with that.
It is.
Because I was curious about her and I introduced her to people and I took her goals seriously. So to be able to, but also to regulate that nervous system to not freak out with what she told me and go take action on it.
Right.
So I immediately went to my boss and my boss's boss and I said, here's the situation. And then the boss's boss who could handle that situation immediately got on the phone and took care of it.
Right.
And that security guard was fired. So being able to build that trust in that relationship helped me make a clear decision and helped the boss's boss make a clear decision because I was calm. I didn't overreact. I just said, I'm just going to explain to you what happened. And to be able to take action that quickly, to have your employees back, your friends back, really means a lot.
Right. But you were able to make intentional moves.
Yes.
Because your system was regulated instead of just reactive, right? And so for me, it was slowing down. I had an impulsivity to me. And I needed to slow that down, but slow down that impulsiveness so that I could act in a way that is not destructive. Because when you do react out of an emotion that, anger has its place. There's nothing wrong with anger. I mean, I think in our society, we pretend like people aren't supposed to get angry.
Yeah. Turn it off. You're not supposed to be that way.
I mean, think about it. Don't cry. Don't show anyone you're angry. Don't show any of that stuff. And it's inauthentic.
Exactly.
You can get angry. You just don't have to blow somebody up in the process.
Right.
You don't have to demean them. You don't have to criticize them. You don't have to do any of that stuff. But you can be angry. Yeah, that ticks me off. I tell people that ticks me off. I don't know what I'm going to do about it, but I'm going to sit on it for a minute.
Yeah. Well, that's the big part, right, I think. And you and I have spent a lot of time talking about things like this because there's the traditional personal growth world where it's all mindset, optimization. You need a 7-hour morning routine with a cold plunge and a sauna, and you need to go run 9 miles, and then you can journal for an hour and a half, and then you can finally start your workday. I'm like, man, it's already noon. What are you doing? I've been up since 4. I haven't done anything except optimizing myself until noon.
Right.
But there's a limit to that because what is not talked about a lot in the personal growth world outside of the mindset is your emotional literacy term. Because that's really, I think, going through a personal development journey and where I'm at now, it was really turning off those negative emotions instead of realizing it's a life force that I can create something with.
Yeah.
So I've been messing around with painting just for fun because, again, I'm trying to listen to what comes in. And one day I was like, go paint. I was like, okay, I'm aggravated. So I went and painted, and I put the aggravation on the canvas instead of verbally vomiting at someone. Right. And I look at that and I'm like, oh, that's what agitation looks like. And to be able to channel that in a different way, to create something with it was like a profound moment that was an hour and 10 minutes of my life. That was really cool because I'm stepping into that emotional literacy. Like, what can I actually do with this that is not destructive? Even going back to look at the world. Like we've talked about this too. I always say division's the world's largest economy.
Oh, yeah.
And if you look at the media, and I worked in it for 27 years, it gives you a very small slice of the world. It might show you 2-3% of the entire world while ignoring the 97, 98% of basically good things that happen, or at least moderate things. And it gives so many of us the impression that the world sucks and it needs to be fearful and, ISIS is going to attack us or whatever. because it's so easy to sell fear because it's a base natural instinct that we've had for 100,000 years or whenever humans popped onto the planet.
Well, the thing is that I think with judgment is that because the media, it does work.
Of
Right?
course.
It works. I mean, people are so wound up, and I can tell based off of what radio station's on in a customer's car as to what the interaction is going to be.
I can imagine. As someone who was behind many of those microphones. If they're listening to classical music, it's different from listening to heavy metal or my old station, maybe.
Your old station specifically sticks out to me. They're going to be grouchy. They're going to be pissed off because they listen to the cesspool of stuff that happens all day long, and they get angry, and then they get this righteous, indignation. I don't know if that's the right word.
That's a good one. Mm-hmm.
But and that allows them to judge, and that's their form of therapy. I feel shitty about myself, but if I can invest my energy thinking about how bad you are and how you're trying to take over the world and how I'm not going to let that happen, as if this guy has any say so, then I can feel better about myself. But that's not the way to do it. I mean, you're just like literally living unconscious. So I see it, when I see the guy in traffic that's just drifting through traffic, cutting everybody off. He's in his own bubble. He's not aware of the rest of the world. That's unconscious. Yeah. So how do we open up? How do we expand our consciousness? How do we? And the other thing is, and we were talking about this the other day, is judgment lives up here. We spent so much time coming up with logic and plans and all this stuff, and when in fact half of our intelligence is in our heart, and we're talking about heart-centered business, right?
Mm-hmm.
This, if people are honest and they think about it, they're like, oh, she broke my heart. Well, your heart literally is broken. That is a thing, but it's just as intelligent as your brain, just differently.
Yes.
So heart-centered service is considering this thing that this is our energy source. Everything comes. I mean, this thing pumps the blood. It makes everything happen, and we think it's all in the brain. The brain is just thought. I mean, it's just a tool, right? But your heart is really kind of where it's your heart center. It's where you live.
It's your guidance system, right? That's what led you to pull into Tri-City Transmission and Auto Repair and say, I think it's time for you guys to retire, and I'm going to buy your shop because your heart led you here.
My heart led me there.
My heart led me to New Orleans. I applied for this random job, and this is never how it works in radio. We had job boards, right? Specific for radio, and you have a 1 in a million chance because everyone wants this job. So I had very little experience at this point, hosting. But I had hosted a special show on the first anniversary of 9/11. So 9/11/02, I used that tape to send to New Orleans. And this was like almost a year later. So it's a little bit out of date, but I didn't expect to hear anything. And I get this email like a week or two later. Like, I just listened to your CD, Rob. Very interesting. Let's talk.
CD. This is a while back.
Yes, this is a while back. This was 03. This would have been summer 03. And weirdly, again, you talk about coincidences.
Mm-hmm.
I had gone to New Orleans with my family on a cruise and basically went to Bourbon Street and hung out in one bar for 8 hours. And I was like, I can't wait to go back because at that point in time, was fun, right?
Yeah.
So I had planned this trip to go back to New Orleans that coincided with this job posting. And I said, when I talked to Dan on the phone, I said, I'm going to be in New Orleans in a month. He's like, great, I'll take you out to lunch. And I sat down to lunch, and at the end of lunch, he offered me the job. And I'm like, I guess I'm moving to New Orleans. Because that's where my heart led me, right? And just following that.
Following your heart.
Yeah, really was profound.
Right.
In being able to trust that. And also to go back to grouchy people. Look, I was a long-term grouchy person because I'm looking at all the 3% of the world that's wrong, and I'm thinking about history and how wrong it is, and I'm like trying to right this wrong as if it's my burden to do.
Right.
So I understand why, and I understand the work that you can do to free yourself from that. Because I like the term freedom a lot, and I used to only think about it in terms of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, but now I think about it in terms of individual, that we each have our own freedom journey from our own past, from our own thoughts even, so that we can really get into the space and what feels great for us.
Right. I spent so much of my life people-pleasing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, people-pleasing, and we have had a lot of conversation about the word sovereignty, And, because I'm so worried about what other people think and pleasing people and making all that happen. And when you're talking about freedom, that's what I'm thinking about. When I'm so busy worried about what everybody else thinks and making sure everybody else is satisfied so that I can be okay, then I'm not making the choices that I want to make because I feel like I got to play by these cultural rules. And when you're talking about freedom, it's like as soon as you realize that that's stuff that's unnecessary.
Yes.
And when you take all that away, now, okay, what does Rob want to do today? I don't have to do what I've been bred and raised to do. I can do something different, and not to take away our ancestors or who they brought us to be. It's all important, but it doesn't, we can do something different. And some of the thought that we're talking about is that, even in a business, a rule breaker, okay, we're going to make this thing heart-centered. It's going to be a successful business, but we're still going to be heart-centered. We're still going to connect with people. We're going to see people for who they are. We're going to understand ourselves for who we are. And when you interact with people, it teaches you something about yourself. You can learn from that. So we're breaking the rules, but just because we've done it a certain way for the last 100 years doesn't mean we got to keep doing it that way. At some point along the way, there's a shift.
Yes.
And everything, in our Western culture, we're so up here in the brain with the strategy and the judgment and the control that we're all after. And why do we want control? So we can feel safe. I mean, at the end of the day, we all want to feel safe.
Fear and safety is the two driving human emotions, really.
Right there. So we're doing that so we can feel safe. And when in fact, it really, when we can get out of our head and down into our heart, we can start to feel safe. And because we're more comfortable, but you get caught up in fear, and that's what a lot of that is. It's everything's sensationalized.
I went to Africa last year and had a really profound human experience. I missed that. Well, I had a flight that was late, and I ended up in Lomé, Togo, which I don't think I even knew was a country till I started researching this trip. And I'm standing there by myself. The two guys I had gone with had to go take care of some family business. I was supposed to meet them in Ghana, and here I am in Togo, miles away, and I'm like, oh, okay. The fear kicked in because I'm in this unknown place, French-speaking country, old school, like writing your passport number down in a ledger. Right. And I'm like, what is happening here? What is going on? So my natural body reaction is to freak out.
Right.
And I bring this up because I had this experience where okay, look around. Is anybody panicking, freaking out? Nobody's panicking, freaking out. Okay, cool. Take a couple of breaths, look around, wait in the line, gather yourself. So I hand over my passport. They take it. They take a picture of me. They say, okay, go get your bag. I go get my bag, and I'm like, are they going to give me my passport back? I have no idea, but I'm calmer now. And then this woman comes up to me, and she says, are you waiting for your passport? In like English. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I got a buddy. Turns out they live in Phoenix.
Really?
So it's this weird things happen.
What are the odds in this country that no one's ever heard of?
Yeah.
Where they're putting your passport on a ledger and some lady says, oh, yeah, how you doing?
Right.
I'm
but
from
if
Phoenix.
I stayed freaking out, I might have missed that moment.
Right.
So instead, her and her boyfriend and I hung out in Lomé, Togo, and we ate Italian food of all things on this deck of this hotel, and you could see the ocean right there and hear the waves. I'm like, it turned into this really cool, awesome experience just by being open to it and getting out of that fear.
And when we're so busy, striving, we can't see those opportunities. So that's with a regulated nervous system. And back to the freedom point, how do you get to the point of, and like you say, I'm not going to jump in I'm not going to have 6 hours of my day built around, we got to do life.
Of course.
But we got to learn to do it at the same time.
Yes.
We can learn to slow it down. And slow it down doesn't mean you don't get stuff done. But efficiency is not the ultimate goal in everything.
Optimize.
Right.
Every minute of your day has to be spent producing. Like,
yeah, right.
I don't work for Ford. Get out of here.
We've all heard smell the roses, right?
Yes.
And so, when you can slow that down and enjoy life. And so that's another way to look at success. What is success? Okay, we talked about a regulated nervous system. But what is success, and what are we really chasing for? I mean, I think we all want food on our tables. We all do want safety. I think safety is important. I don't want to feel like I'm
Yeah, of
living in a
course.
threat all the time. So I don't need to make that up. If there really isn't a threat, then I don't want to live there. So our nervous systems and cortisol is just flowing through our veins all the time because we're all stressed out. When I turned off the news,
It's a beautiful thing when you do.
when you do, and when I turned off the news is when I started working, at the station where we met, is when I really saw how the news was made. I was like, I've seen how the sausage is made. I'm not as interested.
That song Dirty Laundry by Don Henley comes to mind, where he's talking about the bubble-headed beach blonde who tells you about the plane crash with a gleam in her eye. That's the news. That's such a great song.
Uh-huh.
I listened to it just yesterday, and I was like, wow, this is spot on.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, once I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, I'm not really interested, and I shut it off. So I shut it off. I think that was 2011, and I didn't listen to it for a long time. And I made the mistake recently of getting involved again, and I was like, oh, man, why did I do this?
Yeah.
It's taken me like a couple weeks to get my feeds back to normal.
No
where
kidding.
I'm not,
I gotta like puppy dogs and kitty cats and be like, come on, give me more dogs.
Rainbows and unicorns and Teletubby land. Give it to me all day long.
All right. So in closing, I want to ask you, tips that you might have for us to slow down, because, I have my methods. You probably have different methods. So I'm curious if someone came to you and said, Dave, I hear what you're saying. I'm living life on the edge. The cortisol is flowing in my body. I'm fearful. I'm in a state of edginess. What do you recommend that I try?
I mean, I found people that knew it. I found people that knew it.
Smart.
And then those people that knew it taught it to me, and I teach it to others.
Yeah.
And you teach it to people just by being with them. Because, the people that you spend time with, man, after I have lunch with you, Dave, I feel so great. Well, I'm giving them a little taste of that experience. What does it feel like to just chill out? And, real quickly, and how this journey began was an employee that quit on a second day of the job. And I said, why are you quitting of all days? Because we were busy as can be. And he says, because you're an a-hole. And I said, oh, I'm an a-hole. Well, tell me more.
You've only been here a day. How do you even know that?
How do you even know that? And at that time of my life, he was right. He wasn't wrong. And so what he did was I said, okay, well, if I'm an a-hole and you know so much, can you teach me not to be an a-hole?
Nice.
And I asked him for help, and he said, okay.
Wow.
He goes, you ready for your first lesson? I said, yeah, sure. So we went into my office, and the shop was, we were up to our, we were just buried.
Yeah.
I had so much going on. And he sat in the chair across from my desk, and he said, okay, so your first lesson is this. There's all kinds of crap going on out there. He says, we're going to ignore it. We're just going to sit here for an hour.
Wow.
I was like, an hour?
Yeah. Are you like some Zen Buddhist teacher right now? What is this?
I know. And so we did, and he goes, are you uncomfortable? I said, I'm really uncomfortable.
I got it. The list of things I need to do is all up the wall here.
I'm really uncomfortable, and now I got to, we talk about me emotionally illiterate. Now I got to consider some emotions that are going on. And so he goes, yeah, we're going to sit in that discomfort, and we're actually going to lean into it a little bit. And so we just sat there for an hour, and that was my first lesson. So it is that, in realizing that, honestly, and I tell the employees all the time at the meetings, I say, nothing we're doing here today is life or death. We're just fixing transmissions, and these are honestly just first world problems.
Yeah.
Great
to have them.
Great to have
them. It's
a
blessing to have them.
And so just to take that pressure off that we think that we have to go, and really, we spin our wheels more than we know.
Yes.
Because we're ineffective. We actually go faster by going slower. So how do I get there? Well, I start looking at mindfulness. I start finding people that seem to have this sense of calm in their life. And when I sit with somebody that's calm and isn't anxious, because anxiety is contagious. So
you can feel it.
You can feel it.
If you pay attention. Yeah.
So I work in a transmission shop, and I'll tell you, I'm a super sensitive person. So if the person next to me is anxious, I feel their anxiety. So I have that come into my counter because, your transmission in your car's broken. You know it's going to be expensive. You just put an AC unit on your house a month ago, right? You got to get the kids to school. You want to talk about stress? You are stressed out. And to you right now, this is life or death. Right? So you come into my counter. If I'm not aware of what's going on, okay, you pass the anxiety ball to me. I take it. I give it back to the employee. The employee takes it, right? Now he goes home. He kicks the dog. The dog bites the wife, all because someone wasn't aware of the anxiety that came in the door. And so if you can calm that person at the counter, maybe can, maybe can't. But if you don't allow that energy to transfer to you, you don't pass it on to the rest of the world. So, love is contagious. Heart-centered is contagious. That stuff is contagious, but also anxiety is too. So finding calm, find people who know it. And that would be my advice for doing that.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's fantastic. And one of the things I learned in seeking out experts is the power of slow breathing. And just really focused on the air that goes in your nose, feel it as it comes into your lungs, and then feel it as it comes back out and exhale it. You do that 2-3 times, it will help regulate, like as just a little trick. And that's how I got started. And now I can add some other things to my repertoire. So very good advice. Okay, final advice. There are other standard bearers out there who are bold, invisible, and want to be out front. And I think the best way to be out front and to redefine an industry like you're doing in the auto repair industry is to break those rules. So how do you recommend a standard bearer test out a little rule breaking? And that's really just going against the status quo is how I'd say that.
Yeah.
So what was, if you can think back, or maybe something pops to mind of a way, because you mentioned one before, right? Fixing the one screw versus the entire transmission, even though the entire industry is like, no, we replaced the whole thing. Forget the screw. So there's an example. So what might you say to someone who's like, Dave, I agree with you. I want to redefine my industry. I want to make it better. How should I approach this?
How should I approach this? If there's something that doesn't make sense, just do it.
Yes.
We've just always, why do we do it that way? We just always have done it that way. Well, it doesn't make it right because we've always done it that way. So I had a thought and it slipped my mind to answer your question. But what is the step in doing that is be willing to let go of the consequences, right? I mean, you're in charge of people are in charge of their destiny more than they think they are. Right? They think they're not.
You're your own authority.
You're your own authority. If you want to do something, as long as you're not hurting somebody and you're not breaking any laws, accelerate speed, that's breaking a law. But honestly, go for it. And you can do that. It's for me, it's the the example that's coming to my mind is, we got auto shops and it's funny, like doctors will protect doctors, lawyers will protect lawyers, mechanics throw mechanics under the bus like every time, right? I just get on the phone and I call the shop that's throwing me under the bus. Hey, Dave, I don't know that we know each other, but we got this customer and it's kind of mutual. And hey, would you mind if I stop by today? And what I did was I just humanized the situation. It's really easy to judge someone when they're not eyeball to eyeball.
Big time.
Right? So get people eyeball to eyeball. Maybe that's the first thing is just have a real discussion and don't come perspective take. Don't come to it with I'm right, you're wrong. Because open dialogue means I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to hear what you've got to say. If I'm not willing to do that, then it's not open dialogue. But you can break a rule like that. You can't. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, you sure can. What's going to happen? Nothing.
Exactly.
What's going to happen? Nothing. We may be a really great experience. It's kind of like the kid that you got in a fight with at the schoolyard. I mean, some of those kids are my best friends today.
Exactly. But you've got to get to that point to learn and experiment. And maybe this is for you and maybe it's not. Maybe the next thing is. Maybe it's the fifth thing you try that turns out to be, that's the rule that I need to break.
And you can always make it. You can always make a decision. You can always go back. You can try it out. It didn't work. Okay, we'll do something else. And don't be so afraid that you can never go back. And oh my gosh, because back into fear. If you live in that fear, you're like, oh, this is going to happen, and that's going to happen. Think of the things you were afraid of 5 years ago. None of them ever came to pass. Right? Hey, I got MS, and now I'm going to be on the street, and I can't feed my wife and my child and all that stuff. None of that ever happened.
No.
But I went through those thoughts.
Of course.
I went through tragic, dark thoughts in that time, but it was all just a blessing.
Absolutely. And as I realize now, being able to cover Katrina for me and that journey to, number one, I needed to be humble. So I ended up in Farmington, New Mexico. And as a radio careerist who wanted to broadcast in New York in a big city, this is an unranked market. But I look back at it so fondly now because of what I learned and how that prepared me for Phoenix to eventually achieve the goal of being number one.
Right.
Especially during something as crazy as the pandemic. To be the most trusted voice in Phoenix meant a lot, still means a lot.
Yeah.
But I can't do that without going through it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We absolutely do.
Yes. Dave Riccio, please, you had another thought.
Oh, I was just thinking, lean into discomfort. Lean into it.
No one knows that more than you.
Is that, it's because we medicate. We're like, oh, I don't like that. It's discomfortable. I'm not going to do it, or I'm going to medicate it out, with a couple glasses of wine tonight.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And, or whatever that medication is. And things can be hard and stuff happens, but you got to find a way to take the energy of it, like you said, create something with it, or even let it pass through you. When you deal with an anxious person, some of that's going to be on you.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to realize it. You got to step outside. You got to go do a little walking meditation through the parking lot. That's literally what I do. I just go walk the parking lot. I come back, and I'm grounded, and I'm centered, and I know what to do from there.
Back into the heart-centered.
Yeah, this is fun. Thank you for the interview.
I appreciate it. Dave Riccio telling me what heart-centered really is and how you can apply it to your business. And I love it because as a standard bearer, I said bold, I said visible, I said out front, and redefine your industry. But you added really important, critical piece. You got to be a rule breaker.
Got to be a rule breaker.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably job one.
Yeah, exactly. So, now that I dropped this label on you as a standard bearer, how does that make you feel?
Well, I'm honored. Thank you. It does acknowledge some of the things that in my life that is like I always have been different.
Yeah.
And
agree.
Took some hits for it for sure.
Usually you do.
And if you're doing status quo, you're good with everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
You do anything different, and you're gonna raise some eyebrows.
There's no more people pleasing than in the status quo.
For sure.
Everybody stay the same. Would be great. That's Dave Riccio. Dave, thank you so much for your openness, your honesty, and really sharing your journey with us. It's something we can all learn from. He's the owner of Tri-City Transmission and Auto Repair, truly heart-centered service in Tempe, Arizona. So I'll give him a plug. When you have trouble with your car, you need service for your car, I highly recommend you bring it to Dave in Tri-City Transmission and Auto Repair. My name is Rob Hunter. This is the first standard bearer episode of Equal Matters. More to come. We'll see you soon. Cheers.